Hello there and welcome back to the channel. This is another replay analysis and we are going to today focus on Trollolo 19 driving the E75, the tier 9 German heavy tank, and it's on steps in an assault game mode, so it's going to be a bit of a quick one. As Trollolo is making their way to the initial position that they want to take, I thought it best to reiterate what this series is trying to accomplish. And basically what it's trying to do is I'm trying to show you replays where players make really good decisions, either strategically in the long run or just snapshotting or tracking enemies, that kind of thing, any sort of good decision, and then in contrast talk about any mistakes that they make in the game. I'm not taking perfect games that do massive amounts of damage and things like that. I want to find entertaining games for you, but I don't want one that's just an absolute walkover and other things like that. I want to show how influential any tank can be if the player controlling it knows what they're doing. The aim of this series is not to turn you into somebody who can do 5,000 damage, 10,000 damage every game and have the spectacular results every game, because that's just not going to happen. It's a random game, there are 15 people on each team, there's no way you can consistently get that. But what I'm trying to do is just trying to get you to see what really good players are doing, or at least what players did on one occasion that made them, give them the edge or allow them to destroy an enemy tank they otherwise wouldn't have, or even get a victory when they otherwise wouldn't. These sort of incremental improvements are what I'm trying to highlight. So if you can just implement them consistently in your game, you'll probably have an overall better experience with the game, because you're increasing your chances of winning every game by a tiny percentage. Anyway, as I was yammering on there, you'll notice that Trollolo was playing very conservatively as they moved up to this initial position, as they take their first shot of the game, and a very nice tracking shot into the 705, who clearly has lost their repair kit. They went all the way around behind that railway track sort of mound to protect themselves and also prevent themselves from getting spotted and hassled by artillery, as they put another huge shell into the Object 705 there. It's actually quite refreshing to see that the E75's buffed gun is just consistently hitting over 500 damage. The old version, which did I think 490 on average, you'd be pretty lucky in getting over 500, but it just feels like a more round number, dealing consistently over 500 damage. And you've got the turret armor now to just do what Trollolo is doing right now, just using that ridge, and the E75 has decent enough gun depression to just fight the ridge line and keep its very vulnerable lower plate hidden. Again, some may consider this a sort of a selfish play or even a mistake, but Trollolo is in a top tier German heavy tank that's really good at brawling and getting stuck in and fighting. And you'll notice that Trollolo is pretty much at the back, save for Batchat 12T. Now, this is arguably, again, quite selfish in terms of the team. You can see that all of the tanks in front have taken a lot of fire, apart from that AE phase 1 there, who's still managed to look after their health. But Trollolo has kept all of their health secure and is just offering fire support at this stage. You can see that there are 10 enemy tanks left and only about 5 of them have been spotted, so Trollolo doesn't really want to push forward and run into some very significant tank destroyers like that Object 704 there that's just popped up. Another thing that you'll notice here that Trollolo is doing is they are guaranteeing that they are not going to get penetrated in the lower plate by just ramming it up against this wreck of a 50 TP here, and this is obstructing the shot from the enemy tank destroyers. They are really struggling to get through, and I think that blind shot into the bushes there actually hit the 704 earlier, but Trollolo does pick up another shot on the SU-130 PM and is still just manoeuvring the 50 TP wreck, and you notice the E75 has enough power to weight to just force it forwards, and a pretty easy blind shot here into the 212A picks up the enemy artillery. Most of you have probably noticed in the bottom left that most of the ammunition, if not all of it, that has been sent Trollolo's way is premium, and the testament there is to the E75's armor as well as Trollolo's very conservative sort of positioning, because all they have to shoot at is the top of the turret or the turret cheeks, and the E75, now being buffed, has strong enough armor to ricochet that. Another point is this VK1001P. They move up and sort of put pressure on these two tank destroyers really, really heavily. They manage to catch the Object 704. Now the 130 PM thinks, oh, easy shot, but Trollolo is there waiting. I think it was just a mistake on the 130's part, but Trollolo was able to read the situation there and see what 130 was doing before they did it, and was able to prepare and get a very easy kill off. Now Trollolo is going to push up towards the capture circle. Now here is where you're going to notice a slight mechanical disadvantage that you'll have if you play specifically the E75. Its turret is not particularly quick, and you'll see that the SU-130 PM there nearly gets away with a cheeky shot off there. You'll notice though that Trollolo used the right mouse button to lock their turret in the forward position, so then they pan the camera around to see who was coming with them. If they hadn't done that, the turret would have just turned all the way around and there was no chance of getting a return shot off. So just be mindful of that, especially if your tank is the E75 or a similar tank to it. The turret, if it's not quick, could cost you some damage and expose your weak turret side armor to some very dangerous guns. A nice use of the intuition put there. If they can get the shot off into the SU-130 PM, then that's definitely going to kill them, because the SU-130 has no armor to speak of, so even if it doesn't penetrate, there's going to be some critical damage there. Now Trollolo has to sort of guess which way the SU-130 PM is going to come, and strangely, the enemy team instead decide to fully commit to defending the base. You see the Sharp Future 4 and the TVP turn up. Trollolo notices this just in time to turn back around and deal with the SU-130 PM. The TVP presumably spots the E75 is just fired and manages to track Trollolo. Now you'll notice that Trollolo has to use their hull to turn the gun around and now drives forwards instead of backwards. I've seen a few players sort of back up to try and get an extra shot off, but Trollolo is doing the right thing. They are keeping themselves away from as many guns as possible. Now the artillery picks up the TVP VTU as well. As the Progetto there gets a standard AP shell right through the front of the E75, just demonstrating how weak the lower play is, you'll be forgiven for thinking that this Progetto is outmatched. You can see Trollolo is waiting for them to just come around the corner and try again, but they don't. This Progetto is clearly a little bit more proficient than most players, and they know they can't deal with an E75 from the front, especially when it's angling. There is also a Batchat 12T. I don't know why they're not capping with 2 minutes left, but you'll notice they have only 238 health, which 50-50 a Progetto is going to destroy in one shot. Now I appreciate this replay is about Trollolo's performance, which has been absolutely stellar through this whole game, but something has to be said for this Progetto and how they approach defending the base. You can see they managed to keep Trollolo's attention with their last spotted position, and that allows them to get all the way around and deal with the Batchat 12T with relative ease, not taking that much damage, and notably they still have enough health to take a shot from Trollolo's gun, and that is extremely important considering Trollolo's long reload. It is more than enough time for a Progetto to get all 3 shots off, which is what they need to deal with Trollolo's remaining health. Trollolo does exactly the right thing here. They angle as much as they possibly can, but the Progetto is still quick enough while stunned to get through. An ammo rack guarantees that Trollolo won't get the return shot off, 2 shots go through, and one tiny nudge forward from Trollolo is enough to bounce the 3rd shot. The E75 there showing why it's such a good close-range brawler. Because the Progetto was so close, it had to point its gun downwards to maintain the angle or the shot at the lower plate of the E75, and that in turn increased the angle and allowed it to bounce. So Trollolo did the right thing there, just driving forwards straight into it to increase that angle and probably saving them the game. Also, they managed to complete a personal mission. So a pretty significant win there for Trollolo 19 and the remaining artillery piece there, just stunning the Progetto at the end. Trollolo really demonstrated there how a conservative playstyle can really influence the game, especially if you're in a top tier vehicle. Even if it's a top tier light tank, you can, if you look after your hit points, you can really trade more effectively, and if you know what your tank can do and how well it can perform against certain enemies, you really can dictate the engagement. I would say that this kind of playstyle doesn't really work if you're sort of lone wolfing it, or if you don't have the backup to pull it off. What will end up happening is if you just sit back and wait for the enemy to come at you, they will come at you, but you won't have the backup to keep them from just flanking you and dealing damage to your weak sides and rear and your other weak points, and you'll very quickly get overwhelmed. But as we saw in this game, especially considering it was assault, a lot of friendly tanks just pushed forward, surged forward, took the heat, while Trollolo managed to get some very effective fire down range, pretty much uncontested. And that about does it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you liked it, consider giving it a like. If you want to see more like this, or you have any ideas or replays you want me to actually analyse, then please drop them in the comments below and I'll take a look at them. And otherwise, a bit more long term, maybe consider subscribing. It's just a button in it, really. So anyway, thank you for watching.